Hello everybody, it is Wednesday the 8th of February 2023. Welcome to our £100 special focus meeting. Today I am delighted to welcome Audrey N from Dublin, living in County Meath. She first came to OA in 2015 and following a relapse she was back in the rooms in March 2020. So without further ado, Audrey, whenever you're ready, we'd love to hear your experience, strength and hope.
Thank you so much, Harriet, and thanks everybody for allowing me the opportunity to be of service. It's very important that I get to practice my 12th step by giving back what was so freely given to me. I'm just going to take a breath just to invite me higher power and just to remember that OA has no outside opinions, but me on the other hand, I have plenty. So I have to be very mindful that I try and stick to my experience, strength and hope. So my name is Audrey N. I am from Dublin and I currently live outside Dublin in County Meath. To qualify to be a 100-pounder, I currently have lost 140 pound plus from coming to this program, and I'm still working towards that healthy body weight one day at a time. All in hand with my higher power because I'm powerless. I will talk really briefly about, what brought me into the rooms because, I know anybody that has, the at least 100 pound to lose will know, I've had experience of breaking chairs. I've had experience of, seatbelt extenders, uncomfortable sitting, walking into a room and looking around to see is there a chair that I'm going to fit in, and just that shame, that people were actually physically looking at my body and not looking at me when I came into a room. For those who don't have 100 pound to lose, to me, I feel that we all suffer the same, whatever way our disease manifests. So I do not think that I suffer more because I had 100 pound or more to lose. That's just how my disease manifests, and I got up to 410 pound in the highest weight. And yeah, I came in, as I said, 2015. It was my mom who found OA and had suggested that I try it because I had tried every other remedy, every other pain way, soups, laxatives, everything that you can imagine. I've tried it, and I did lose weight. I lost weight. I lost like 8.5 stone at one point for a wedding, but it came back on, with plenty more than I had lost, and I was over that weight. So, for me, I recall being a small child and having, like kind of just more, I wouldn't have known it was anxiety at the time, but I would have thought just a worried child, I always had that worry feeling in my stomach. No trauma, nothing like that, but I did get an ease and comfort from food. And I learned very young that when I was upset or happy, or worried or any of those feelings that came up that I didn't know what or how to deal with them, I would use food to numb out whatever the feelings were. I didn't know at the time what it was. I didn't know I had an illness, and thank God I've been brought through the program and through the doctor's opinion. And now I know that I do have an illness. But I also have a solution, a solution, the only solution, for me is this program. Just, the XXX on the big book, it tells me there in the doctor's opinion. And I love the doctor's opinion purely because, doctors, I don't know where anybody, in the country lives, but doctors are very fond of making a few bob, and this doctor, was outside of him and admitted that, he did not have the solution. And I love that he had the balls to stand up and say, this is outside of anything I can do. This has to come from a spiritual experience. But, halfway down on XXX, it says there, all these and many others have one symptom in common. They cannot start drinking. So me and anybody else that has this disease cannot start eating those foods. It sets up a craving in me, so that one bite leads to another, which will lead to, for me, it was non-stop eating. So it was breakfast to lunch, or breakfast to snack, snack to lunch, lunch to snack, and all the way through. And it says it's the phenomenon of craving manifests as an allergy. And the only treatment is entire abstinence. That's the only treatment. You know, when I first came in 2015, it was a Monday to Friday abstinence. You know, it was a don't eat unless it was a party. You know, don't eat unless you're eating out. And the eating out and the parties were more frequent, you know. Um, so, you know, to qualify, yes, I came in. I've been an overeater all my life, numbed out of life, you know, high, you know, senior year, you know, college, all of watching everybody else doing stuff. You know, I watched life from the sidelines, you know, at the discos, everybody else was dating, you know. Um, at, you know, when people were getting married or going to parties, you know, I was the one that was just having the crack, you know, because I wasn't really into that. But the thing was is that I had no confidence. I had no self-worth, no self-belief, and I was numbed out. Um, and I moved to America when I was 20, and geographical cure, you know, it's going to cure me, you know, it's just a land of opportunity. And I just got bigger and bigger, you know, and then it was the case of I can't go home like this. I can't go home. People cannot see me with this weight on me. But my sister decided to get married and asked me to be chief bridesmaid. And yeah, I had to come home. So I went to a paying way and I lost 8 stone very quickly. Got into a dress, came home and was, you know, happy that, you know, I was able to face people. A few months later, decided to move back home and life became lifey, you know. Build up of human emotions were back, you know, resentments were building back up, you know, looking for a job. I was back in college, I was doing all of that stuff, watching my friends date, you know, watching my friends get married and have kids. Um, and the weight, you know, just came back and back. Um, I did meet somebody and had no interest in them, you know, but they started to show interest in somebody else. So I thought, oh, if I don't tell this person I'm interested in them, you know, because I had no self-worth or self-belief, you know, maybe I'm never going to find anybody. So um sad to say that I did. I settled and, you know, I had a relationship with that person for a long time. I have 2 fantastic children. Um, but then that all turned into, during a breakup, turned into very bitter from me. And I became the martyr. I became the single mom who was doing everything. Poor me, you know. Um, and I slated that man, you know, and never gave me a chance to parent, you know, because I do it all and tell everybody I was doing it all so that I could self-seek, you know, because my biggest one offender is self-seeking, you know. I want to do everything for everybody so that they'll say, God, isn't she great? And I'm getting a need met from that. Um, you know, the book also says, you know, dangerous isolation. You know, I isolated out of life. There was hens parties, there was christenings, there was friends having, you know, get-togethers. The only things I ever turned up to, physically turned up to, were weddings, but I was never there. You know, I was numbed out. If I wasn't numbed out from food, I was numbed out from, you know, just drinking alcohol with everybody else for the day, so that, you know, I could function. Um, but yeah, enough of the, you know, the disease, you know, let's get into the solution and what this program has given me. So yes, I came back in March 2020, the pandemic. What a horrific, you know, time for people, but for me it saved my life. You know, I came back into the rooms and got on meetings like this. You know, my job has changed currently, and now I attend court a lot of days, a lot of Wednesdays. So, you know, I'm unfortunately not able to attend as much as I can. But yes, meetings like this, you know, meetings like the Tuesday, the recovery from relapse. And I do say that I relapsed, but if I really look at it, I don't know whether I was ever really entirely abstinent that I could say it was a relapse. But look, I left the rooms and put back on the weight, and that 2020, you know, I looked at people, I could see recovery in people, and I was so resentful, you know. But I kept coming back to meetings, and I got in contact with my old sponsor, and she wasn't in a position to bring me back through the steps. And she said to me, you know, there's a thing called a vision for you, and there's podcasts, and, you know, just keep going to them and see what you get. And I did, you know, I got a sponsor. um I waited till the July to get a sponsor, because, you know, I was kind of sitting in the meetings from March to July going, well, maybe I kind of know what I'm doing. I'll just go to meetings and I'll just see, I'll just try, you know. But I knew, you know, there was no way, I needed to go through this program. So my sponsor brought me through Surrender School, a lot of reading, a lot of extra, you know. And whatever way you're brought through the book, I say it, the whole thing is that we're just to get that spiritual experience so that we can live happy, joyous and free. So I was brought through the big book, and I kept saying to my sponsor, when am I getting this flash of light? When is this spiritual experience coming? And she kept guiding me back to the appendix, saying, read the spiritual experience appendix 2. And when I read it, it taught me, not everybody gets that. That moment of tumbling to your knees and God coming in. For me, it was the educational variety. So over time, I was changing, I was more patient, I was getting up in the morning and I wasn't shouting at the kids, and I wasn't asking them to hurry up, and I wasn't telling them how to live. I was turning up in work, and I was being more empathetic towards the clients I worked with. I was listening to people. I was turning up for coffee and looking at somebody in the eye, not going, what are they getting? Or I wish I was only starting to come in now, and then I'd be able to, all of those obsessions that I got when I was into food, that slowly was leaving as I was going through the steps. The step one is the 100% step, give it that 100%, get rid of those trigger foods. For me, it's red and green. And I heard someone share a meeting on Sunday, a yellow light always turns to red, and I think of that with the food. If I'm holding on to a yellow food, it's going to have to go red eventually. So I'm just like red and green, just keep it to the two. And I followed the dignity of choice, for the meal. All the OA literature, it was simple, it was there, it was given to me, So yeah, morning prayer, meditation, connecting to the higher power. The thing is, I am powerless. I could not run a bath, never mind my life. I could not run the show. I tried to, I really tried to, and I really tried to get everybody to conform and to go with my beliefs. And when they didn't, that's when my resentment came up. If someone didn't believe or agree with me, I'd be like, well, what does she know? And anyway, does she not know that I know it? So I learned through going through the steps, my 4 and 5, putting those people on the list. Oh, I could write them in seconds. I know who I'm resentful at. Boom, boom, boom. I had that column done in seconds. I struggled with the one that I had to look at my part, because I could justify and rationalize why, so when I was being really not so friendly to my children's dad, when I looked at my part, I was like, oh, I have a part in this. And my sponsor always said, even if you only have 1%, you have to take 100% of that responsibility. So I did, and I shared that 5th step, and my sponsor said, put it all down, higher power doesn't keep your 5th step on their fridge. It's gone. Once we just need to share it and get rid of it. 6th and 7th, so short, but so important that I practice it every day. I'm willing to have these defects removed. God, please remove them. And I'm getting to the point now where I'm like, replace them with something better. I'm happy to have them replaced. There's other behaviors out there that I can replace those defects with. My step 8 and 9, same thing. I knew the freedom I got from step 4 and 5, so I was so eager to do it. And when I sat down and said to the father of my kids, I apologize. I'm so sorry for the part of the relationship. And, I tried to make you somebody that you weren't, and the freedom that came with that, and it tells us in the book, we're not always going to meet people that are going to be like, yes, it's fine, but that's what that did. It was years of feuds were gone, and now we can co-parent 2 children together. And yeah, my family, friends, I've had to make amends to friends for not turning up, for not being present, and the step 11, my step 11 in the past, my step 10 is daily, get rid of those resentments and fears. It's the pebble in the shoe. If it hits you at 10 o'clock in the morning and you're like, oh, I'm going to be grand, sure, I done an outreach call, it's not really annoying me, in a few days time, that's going to explode, because we don't have the luxury of holding on to stuff like that. And then the 11, my step 11 in the past was like going to bed going, I wasn't really sarcastic with anybody today. I thought I was being funny. I don't think I was bitchy, whereas now my step 11 is, where was I being of service today? What could I change tomorrow to make it a better day? And I have to look at all those headings I use the app, my spiritual toolkit, and I send it to my sponsor every night. And I have to connect during the day, take that pause, there's a bit of bitching going in the office, what do? Do I pull over my chair? Or do I remove myself and make a call? Or do I put on the ear pod? That's what I have to do. I don't have the luxury of those bedevilments. And when I'm practicing my spiritual program, I will stay out of that. And my step 12 is I have to be of service. So I have to be of service to my sponsees. I have to be of service to my sponsor. I have to be of service to my kids, my colleagues, anybody that I meet. So if I meet somebody on the street and they are really, really agitated and they're honking the horn, I have to say maybe their day is just not going the way it should go. And I don't retaliate. Um, the other thing about the sponsoring for me, it's so important that I have sponsees. It's so important that I get to go through that big book all the time. I have to go back through it. That's me being sponsoring, and that's me getting back through. And every time I read it, I always hear something different. It probably depends on where my head is on that day. And I have to keep in contact with my sponsor. So I have a check-in with my sponsor. We go through the steps. If I'm not checking in with my sponsor, I'm sponsoring myself. That's just the way I see it. I always, for me, I suggest to sponsors, weekly check-in, fortnightly, monthly. And if it goes past that, if I don't hear from a sponsor in a couple of months, I think they're obviously sponsoring themselves, because I can't I still have to add things onto my food list. 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago before I went away, I had to ring my sponsor and say, look, another food is coming up. I need to add it onto my red list. And she's like, yeah, perfect. We add onto the red list and we have a conversation about that. And my check-in calls, any fears that come up, anything coming up on my steps, I need to have that, I need to have that connection. And the thing that this program has given me is I can go on holidays. I can be present. I've had probably since 2020, probably 6 holidays away, and the 7th one in January, which was I attended the big book, the birthday party for OA. And that's not because by any fluke, that's because my higher power talked through me. I have a kid, and I share it all the time. I'm sure if anybody hears me share, they're like, oh my God, that poor kid. They'd be like, Mom, stop talking about me. But, he doesn't let me go anywhere. He has extra needs and he wants me here all the time. And when I said I was going to the OA birthday party, he was like, oh my God, that's going to be great, and he was delighted. And when I was sharing at the birthday party, he rang me that morning and he was like, what time will you be sharing it? And I said 2 o'clock. That's 10 o'clock here. I'll be thinking of you. That's what this program gave me. It gave me that. It gave them their mom, and it gave me a relationship that I can live today. I didn't want to live. I didn't want to live in that uncomfortable, not being able to stand, not being able to walk around the shops without pushing a trolley, not being able to walk into a room and look people in the eye, because my physical appearance, my body shame, all of that I had was killing me. When I got up to like 410 pounds, on blood pressure tablets, ready for a stroke, one day I only have to do this program at a time, one day. So this morning I get up, I prayed and meditated that, God, give me the next right thought or action. I attended work, I'd done my outreach calls, I had my step 10
2 minutes.
call. Thank you. I had my 10th step call with my 10th step partner. I came home, my son is doing his exams, I collected him, wished him good luck, dropped my daughter into town with our friends, and I can come up and sit in my room and be of service. And if I can do it, a single mom, 2 kids, full-time job, when people say I've no time to do it, I found the time to eat. I found the time to eat. I found the time to go to them shops, to drive into the drive-thrus, multiple ones, and I don't need to hurt myself with the food, and the thing I say to people is, we're not alone. Together we get better. We have this fellowship, we have our 12 steps, but most important, we have a love and higher power. And with that, I pass.